Hello dear friends, welcome to my channel. Thank you for your love and support. So today we are going to discuss about a very important topic called as axilla. So before going to see the contents of it, we need to understand what is axilla. So the location of axilla, what is axilla is also called as, it is called as armpit, which is located medial to the upper part of the arm and lateral to the thoracic cage. That armpit is also called as axilla. So in medical terms, we call it as axilla. In general, we call it as armpit. Now, what is the shape of it? So what is the shape of it is, it is a triangular shape. It is triangular in shape and it is having four walls. We can also call it as four-sided pyramid. Apex is projecting upwards and medially. Let me show you in the diagram. So the apex is present upwards and medially, that is apex, then the base. Okay, this is apex and this is base, and here you can see the medial wall and the lateral wall, and entire this is anterior wall, behind that is posterior wall. Now here this is apex. If you try to observe it, it is also triangular in shape. It is triangular in shape. So here I have shown this is called as apex and this is base. And here you can see the medial wall and this is a lateral wall. And entire here you can see this entire region is called as anterior wall, and behind that is posterior wall. Now I will explain about each and every region. Means apex, what is apex and how it is formed, and base, how it is formed, medial wall and lateral wall, anterior wall and the posterior wall. So let me explain first is the apex. So as I told you earlier, it is a triangular in shape. It is triangular in shape. I am going to remove all these things and I am going to explain the apex part. Apex. So apex is a triangular in shape. So here you can see that. So apex is triangular in shape. Triangular in shape. Now what is this anterior, what is this posterior? Now we'll see. Okay, so the anterior wall, this anterior part of the apex, anterior wall of this apex is formed by the clavicle. So how the clavicle is forming that, now I will show. So this is a clavicle, and posteriorly we can identify it is formed by the scapula. So here you can see the clavicle. Clavicle is forming the anterior part of the apex. Posterior part is formed by scapula. Scapula. Then this medial part of the apex, medial part is formed by the first rib. That's first rib. So this is a triangular in shape. Through that the vessels which are passing, vessels and as well as the cards of brachial plexus. So here you can see the axillary artery. Then you can identify the vein, axillary vein, and as nerves are passing through that cards of brachial plexus. So I am going to show the three cards of brachial plexus. So two are running posterior to that, another one is running medial to that. Okay, so these are the cards of brachial plexus, three cards. You can remember that lateral card, this is lateral card, and this is posterior cord, and this is medial cord. So this is how through the apex, the axillary artery, axillary vein, and three cords of brachial plexus. So this is why this apex is called as cervico-axillary canal. Cervico-axillary canal. Cervico-axillary canal. So why it is called as cervico-axillary canal? Because it is a canal-like structure. Through that the vessels and the nerves, they are passing through that. That's why the apex is called as cervico-axillary canal. So that is about the apex. Now what about the anterior wall, posterior wall, medial wall, and lateral wall? Now I will explain. Now try to see that. So here you can see almost a humerus is present here, and this humerus is forming the lateral wall, strictly speaking the intertubercular sulcus. Here you can see almost the greater tubercle, and this is lesser tubercle, and between these two we can identify intertubercular sulcus, and this humerus is forming the lateral wall of axilla. So lateral wall, you can just write it as lateral wall. Then what about the medial wall? So already have seen the first rib here. So the sternum is present. Almost here it is, the sternum. Now the three upper four ribs. This is second rib, which is going to fuse with the sternal angle. Then here you can see the third one, and here is the fourth one. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4 ribs. So obviously when the ribs are present, between that we can identify intercostal muscles. So these upper four ribs and intercostal muscles, they are forming the medial wall. Now that is about the two walls which I have explained. One is lateral wall, is formed by the humerus and, strictly speaking, intertubercular sulcus, lateral lip and the medial lip and the intertubercular sulcus. Medial wall is formed by upper four ribs and the intercostal muscles, corresponding intercostal muscles. Then what about the anterior wall? So this anterior wall is forming anterior axillary fold. You can see that. So this is anterior wall is formed by anterior axillary fold, the muscles which are forming the anterior axillary fold. So when you just look into the previous videos, you can identify the pectoral region dissection. In that you have seen that pectoralis major, minor, so which are forming the anterior wall. So here you can see that the pectoralis major fibers which are coming from the sternum, that is called as sternocostal fibers and clavicular fibers. So here obviously these clavicular fibers which are running downwards and laterally and reaches to the lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus. So here you can see the aponeurotic fibers. These are the clavicular fibers, and here you can see the sternal fibers, and from the ribs it is sternocostal fibers. So this is how the entire anterior wall is formed by pectoralis major. And if you just try to see that what is present, which muscle is present just underneath that is the pectoralis minor. So here you can identify the coracoid process of scapula, the pectoralis minor, which is arising from the 3, 4, 5 ribs, and it is reaching to the coracoid process, and it is also forming the anterior wall of axilla. Then what is present behind? So behind we can identify the subscapularis muscle, which is extending upwards, and it is reaching to the lesser tubercle of lesser tubercle of humerus, and that muscle fibers are forming subscapularis. Then other muscles are latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi, the fibers which are reaching to the, and just demarcated, no need to worry. So here you can see that the floor of intertubercular sulcus is giving insertion to the latissimus dorsi. That fibers are forming the posterior wall of axilla. So here you can see the anterior wall, then behind latissimus dorsi, then the muscles which are reaching to the lesser tubercle, that is called as subscapularis. The anterior wall is formed by pectoralis major, and entire these fibers are called as pectoralis major, and here pectoralis minor. So this is how the four walls are forming the boundaries: anterior boundary, posterior boundary, lateral boundary, and the medial boundary. Now what about the base? Base is formed by the skin. So base is formed by the skin, superficial fascia, and the axillary fascia, which are forming the base. Now the skin which is present in the armpit or axilla, that is forming the base of axilla. So that is about the boundaries. Now already I have explained about the contents. In the next class I am going to explain what is axillary artery and how it is extending into this axilla, that we are going to see. Thank you, dear friends. See you soon with a new class.